Welcome back to Just Talking with Joe Burdick. I am honored to be able to talk to my new friend. I think I can call you that, um, Cheryl Rex. Since we last talked, uh, we've become friends, right?
Yes, we are
And
friends.
yes, and today is the dignified transfer for the three service members that were recently killed in Jordan, and talking to Cheryl about what happened recently. She shared her experience with me, and I would love to hear it again and record it so everyone else can hear it. Um, so, Cheryl, welcome back.
Thank you, Joe. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. How are you?
Doing okay. A little
I hear you
frustrated, but
guys are about to get some new residents in California. Shortly, some guys hopped on a bus from New York City and they're heading your way.
I saw that.
They're going to love it out there in California.
I really don't want them here.
I wouldn't think anybody would want them there. Um, so, the dignified transfer process, you shared with me some stuff, and I I was amazed at how you were treated. Now, in our conversation, obviously, this is only your experience, your truth. And you're obviously not speaking for anybody else, but your experience had me, I was shocked. And I was hoping you could just tell me how everything went for you. I mean, it was real difficult last time talking to you, asking the questions, even though you said I could ask anything. It was very difficult. But after you found out about what happened with Dylan and the other 12 people, um, I mean, let's take it from there. How did the whole planning for the transfer go?
Maybe it might be a little easier to start from. Um, it was a little under 24 hours when I was notified that we were going to be on a plane to Dover Air Force Base, and so we got on a plane at 4 o'clock in the morning, and we arrived at the airport. And our CACOs, which is your casualty assistant officer that you're assigned to at the time of a service member's passing, we arrived. Our CACO, my personal CACO, got a rental car and we started to drive towards Dover Air Force Base. Um, we ended up at a USO, and when we were at the USO, things quickly changed. I learned that there's a place called the Fisher House inside of this Air Force base. Um, it wasn't equipped to hold 13 families. And so, upon sitting in this USO for a couple of hours, they decided to, I'm not sure who, I'm assuming it was the military Marine Corps, I'm not sure. They decided to, instead of bringing us to that Fisher House on the base, to get a hotel so that all the families could be under the same roof at the same time and maybe do like a meet and greet or just have us connected together. So instead of going straight to the base, we ended up going to this hotel. Um, upon arriving to this hotel, there was so many Marines and so much military presence They greeted us at the door. They were introducing themselves to us. I don't know who they were exactly. I couldn't tell you a single name.
It must
Um,
have been a blur.
it was a huge blur. So we walked into this hotel, and there's just presence of military. And so I wasn't ready. They said that food was going to be in this room. Um, we went upstairs to go put our belongings away, and I guess I had some paperwork I still need to fill out. So we went upstairs to my room and was filling out paperwork. At the time, we still had to wear masks to fly.
Mm-hmm.
And so my son had placed his mask on the dresser. They came into my room and I was filling out paperwork. And of course, I'm not sure what's going to happen. And so I was filling out some paperwork, and they said, okay, we need to go downstairs, at least try to get something to eat. You know, at this point, I hadn't eaten in 24 hours. So, um, of course, I still wasn't going to eat.
Right.
We walked down to the main lobby to go. We were in this room with most, I can't say most, I would say a lot of them had already gone back to their rooms. Um, I was able to meet a couple of the other 13 families, and we were sitting there. My Keiko and my dad had eaten a little bit, and we said we were done, so we went back upstairs. And my son comes running back to my room, and he goes, Mom, look at this. And so we went over, and his mask was a white N95 mask, which turned out to be black by the time we came back. We must have been gone, I don't know, 40 minutes, 45 minutes downstairs, and there was ants covered all over his mask. That just kind of gives a little brief example of how the cleanliness of this place was. Um, my room ultimately had live wires hanging out of it with, what are they called, smoke detectors ripped off the walls. Um, Not something I was expecting to stay the night in. Let's
Right.
just say that.
Right.
Um, Being that it was so quick, we didn't stay. I didn't sleep. We got ready in the morning, and we got on this bus. They sent a bus to come pick us up, and it
Not a
wasn't,
limo, but a bus.
but a bus, and it wasn't a very nice one. It was actually a military issued bus that is normally used to transport boots or young military service members from one location to the next. Had no air conditioning, no heating. It was just a transport bus. Um, it was hot, of course. It was August, so it was really, really hot and humid. We pulled up to Dover. We had to wait because they had to do their screening and make sure all the families didn't have anything on them. Um, I believe they had dogs going around the bus, making sure nobody had anything that the dogs couldn't sense.
Right.
Um, so we drove around for a few minutes, and then ultimately they parked us, and we went into what I now know is this room on the base, and they had sections, perforations. Not all the families were side by side. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we were all kind of separated. I had no idea what a dignified transfer was. Apparently, they're not very common when it comes to a passing of a service member. Um, Mainly, they're used when, or they're not used. Mainly, they're performed when a service member dies overseas.
Right.
So they fly the family to the location so that they're present for when the plane arrival comes. And we were in this room for a couple of hours, and then I kept asking, are we going out there? Are we going to go watch the plane come in? Are we going, you start to think about all these things running through your head. There was, I don't know, a couple of us kind of started pacing around a little bit because we started to get, I guess, anxiety and stress, and everything was starting to come about. And I kept asking this, my Keiko and oh my goodness, why can't I think of the name right now? What do you call them? Help me out here.
The people in the administration?
No, we were we were in this room with our Keikos, military people, and okay, when you go to church and they are through the military.
Ushers?
No,
Yeah.
it's okay. Never mind.
Okay.
So we kept asking, and he kept this one that was, I guess, assigned to us, me, kept
Escort?
asking if I wanted to talk to him, and kind of like a preacher or something. I don't
Mm,
know.
okay.
Um,
Chaplain?
Chaplain, thank you. My goodness, come on, brain, work. So this chaplain kept asking me if I wanted to talk about my feelings, and I was like, no, I just want to, I'm here, and you guys got me here on a plane, and I want to go, be out there when this plane comes. Well, I had no idea why it was taking so long, and I kept questioning why we weren't out there. And
So can I ask a
come
question real quick? Was the plane
for so long
with
because we were waiting for the administration to show up.
was the plane with your son already there waiting?
I apparently so, because when I kept questioning why we weren't outside for this plane arrival, they just kept reassuring me that they were staging outside for us to even go outside.
Mm-hmm.
So um, I didn't know that they had to stage it. Um, it was probably about 4 hours, maybe we were in this room. Um, I had no idea that the administration or Joe Biden was coming in to greet us or whatever this may be.
That wasn't announced to you guys ahead of time like this recent
No,
one was?
no. I personally had no idea that they were showing up.
Okay.
So when it got closer to them, I guess they were there, but they weren't coming in. And so I had questioned why it was taking so long for this supposed president to come in and talk to us. Whatever he was supposed to do was tell us he's sorry, give us our condolences. When he walked up, we were all facing one way, and then I looked, and the guy says, "Turn around," and we all turned around to the other way, and Joe Biden was standing in front of my face. And instead of shaking my hand or giving me his condolences, he looks at me and says, "My wife Jill and I know how you feel. We lost our son as well and brought him home in a flag draped coffin." Um, that was not how I thought that we were going to be graded, or I was going to be graded personally.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know what he said to the other families, but I know that's what he said to me.
Right.
Um, he made his rounds. He went through each of the families. Some didn't want to be in that room, and they gave us the option to go into this closed door room that was soundproof, and you couldn't see in or out. So nobody knew. I personally didn't know who was in that room. I know my dad walked into that room because he said he couldn't be in the room with the people that we had blamed for my son's death.
Right.
So I was standing there by myself, and um, I want to say it took maybe an hour for him to get through all the families and, make his rounds from room to room. And I don't know what he said to them. I just know what he said to me.
Right.
Um, Once that was completed, he left and we were still there. They lined us up and they got us back onto the bus and drove us onto the airfield. It was all kind of blocked off. We couldn't see, I guess there was a perforation in between some of it. And I started looking around. Of course, you see the CIA guys on top of the roofs, and we're guarded. We're guarded with um, people surrounding us. I guess the
Mm-hmm.
media was on the other side of us to the left. Um, we were handed numbers, and these numbers identified which casket coming off of the plane was going to be our personal child. So they sat us in these chairs, and we were supposed to stand up every time our number was called. And it was the second casket that was coming off when I heard somebody behind me say, "Oh my gosh, did he just do that?" And I was crying and I had my head down, so I looked up and I saw Joe Biden putting his hand back to crossed over in front of him. So then I said, "Okay, I'm gonna watch," because I didn't see it because I was just crying, knowing that
Right.
my son's number was coming up. And the next casket was called. The next number was called, and Joe Biden lifted his arm and he was watching his watch. Um, Later, come to find out, after all the caskets had um, come off the plane, they get placed into these. Oh man, I don't even know what they are. They're like a van looking thing, and they held um, four caskets in each one to transport them to inside Dover, where they have the where they do their own autopsies. They prep them, they get them dressed, makeup, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he never said anything to me personally. I mean, I don't know where you want me to go back to on this, because it was very disrespectful. He was disrespectful from the moment he walked into that room. Um,
So, so yeah, what you and I talked about earlier in the week was so um not only did he keep looking at his watch, but you told me something that I never knew before. I mean, a lot of what you told me I never heard. Um, he was late getting there.
right. So when we were in this room, I kept asking questions, and one of the big things that was in my head was nobody was telling me what the condition of my son's remains were.
Mhm.
And so I was pacing back and forth, and I kept getting more angry and more angry. What is taking so long? And well, you're not giving me any information. Is my son going to be, I hate to even use the word, intact? Am I going to be able to see him again? You guys tell me this was an explosion. So that whole period of a couple of hours waiting before we went out, I learned that the reason we were in this room for so long was because he was 2.5 hours late. The administration was 2.5 hours late um, coming to greet us. And the reason that they were late was that they were there. The plane was there. I guess we missed our kids' plane coming in from out of the country. Uh, I learned that Joe Biden had fallen asleep on the plane ride to Dover, and they couldn't wake him up. So he took his nap while we were waiting in this room for our kids' plane, to be out there for this dignified transfer.
Yeah, that's. that was when you told me that, I was absolutely shocked. It wasn't dignified at all. Any of what you had to experience.
None of it.
So so once once the whole um I don't know if it's even the right word, the whole ceremony, the whole transfer was over. What happened after that? After, you know, and I can only imagine that, sitting around waiting for 2.5 hours for 13 families had to be, nobody was interested in photo ops or any of that stuff. I can't imagine. Yeah, I mean, you guys all just want to, be with your child. And after all of this took place, what happened from there? Did they?
If there was cameras in that room, I don't know,
Mm,
because nobody took a photo of me personally, um, with anyone from the administration. And every single one that did pass by each family individually, the only one that even showed any type of sincere tears coming from her face was Lloyd Austin's wife. Even nobody had any emotions or tears except for her. And she came around that corner and she looked at me and she was bawling. And I just, she made me cry because, hi, this is my child. And she was the only one that hugged me and said, if you need anything, we're here for you. They've, they've never responded to anything. They've never helped. People have reached out to some of these administration members and they've never called us back or had meetings with us, nothing. So just knowing that there was no sympathy in that room, your anger just kind of starts to take over at this point, at least for
right.
me. um
I can understand.
I'm trying to just comprehend, I guess, because it hadn't been 24 hours, to comprehend the fact that my son wasn't coming home this way, and these people are coming through and they're just showing us no sympathy at all.
Right.
My dad got
Um,
frustrated and he left me there and he went into that room and he said, I can't do this.
right.
And I said, I'm going to stand here on behalf of my son and behalf of my country because I feel like it's the right thing to do. Maybe I should have been in that room. Maybe I should have walked away with my dad and said, I don't want to be in this room. If I would have known prior to that how he was going to treat me, I would not have been standing there.
So you told me some Marines behind you had to hold you back a little bit.
So I was standing there and he said his little speech about, you knew it was premeditated. Like he had this script he was supposed to read. And um, so Joe Biden, starts to lean into my ear and do that weird, like, child kid thing that he does to little kids into my ear. And I threw my hands up and I stepped back, and the next thing I know, I have people grabbing my arms because I don't know if they felt that I was going to punch him or, I mean, maybe I was. I reacted. I didn't react vocally, but I react physically, and they backed me up because he was leaning into my ear.
Hmm.
Who does that? I mean, you just told me that my son passed away and you're trying to be gross. Mm-mm.
Hmm. One of the other things you told me was, and it's never been reported on the news. Somebody actually accepted blame for what happened.
I wasn't present for that. um, the couple weeks following, we started to connect each other, and um, I started learning who some of the wounded families were and some of who the Marines were. When the Marines came home, I was instantly connected to them. I actually was there. My Keiko asked if I wanted to be present when ghost company returned to the United States, and I said yes, but it was just going to be me. I had no idea what a homecoming would be like for service members who are deployed to come home. Um, so I looked it up because I didn't know what it all entailed. And then I started panicking. I said, Mom, like, calling my family, these are like family things. Can you guys take off of work? Can you go down to the base with us? And my kids ended up going with me, my oldest son and my daughter. And we were waiting and waiting for these Marines to arrive home. Um, and that's when we started to get I personally started to get connected because I got to see them face to face. I got to meet them personally. Um, the families were connecting. We had a lot of the wounded came back to Camp Pendleton. Some of the parents started to connect with us, and at least me. Um, I was trying my hardest to say, hey, like, we don't have to be friends, but I just want to tell you, like, if your son needs anything, please let me know. We'll try to find out how to get it. There was one mom in particular had told me that when her child was wounded at Walter Reed, Millie showed up there and he did a briefing with these families of our wounded, and he told them that it was his fault. He was the one to blame for everything that was happened in Afghanistan on August 26th. Why is he not saying that now?
Right.
Why is he not taking this blame that he blamed himself?
And he was able to retire too and get all of his benefits.
Yeah, it's disgusting. Um, I know that he was on the phone. I tried really hard to do a lot of investigation on my own because things were starting to disappear off of news media outlets and all. I couldn't search anything. It's almost like they shut my phone down, so I couldn't find anything. And I had found out that at the time of the explosion, I guess the suicide bomber, on August 26th, Millie was actually on the phone with our lieutenant colonel. Um, what that conversation entailed, I have no idea what they were talking about. But for him to blame himself, I can only in my own heart think that he was telling them, okay, keep it open a little longer, keep the gate open. It was supposed to close. It was supposed to close earlier in that day. Um, and it wasn't closing. Our gate was the last one. Abbey Gate was the last gate to be shut down. So some of the Marines that I know, the suicide bomber actually made his way from gate to gate, kind of like an encouragement. Hey, I'm here. I'm going to do this if you don't close the gate. So all the gates were closing around the airport, and he made his way over to Abbey Gate. I wasn't there. I can't confirm anything that I'm saying except
Right.
for what I've been told. Um, but if Millie's on the phone with our command, like my son's commanding officers, and him to tell another family that it was his fault, ultimately I blame him. I mean, I blame him for not saying, hey, close that gate. It's the last gate. It's time to close. It's time to shut down. Um, I don't know the leading up to it because I wasn't there and we weren't being informed anything. I
Right.
knew where my son's location was, but I had no communication with him that day, especially with the time change, um, or the time difference. Um, yeah, I'm not sure. He never spoke to us. He never, or to me and my family, he never, when I say us, I'm going to just refer to the us as my family, my immediate family. He never contacted me, or none of these people told us his story, or nothing that was going on leading up to the attack. I didn't know. We're
Well,
watching it on TV like everybody else.
hopefully Congress or somebody picks this up and continues to look into it and get hold people accountable for this.
I feel that if they had been held accountable for Afghanistan, everything that's currently happening right now would not be happening in our country. And
Yeah.
when you don't hold accountability, if I were to do something on the street here in my hometown, I would be arrested. I would go to jail. If I don't know, get a speeding ticket, I'm going to get pulled over and I'm going to get a ticket. These people
Mm-hmm.
are getting away with doing things that a normal person on the street would not be able to get away with. And murder is a big one.
Right. Well, I know we can talk for hours on all that stuff too. It's our world right now. The world is on fire, but our country, I care more about. It, it's absolutely insane what's going on, and that's why I joked about California getting some new residents pretty soon. I mean, it's
And
not a
we've gotten a
joke.
lot of new
It's not
residents.
funny. Yeah, oh, no, I
It's
know.
not
It's
funny.
it's not funny at all. It's not
Right.
funny, ha ha. It's funny sad. But,
I don't
um
know what's happening. Our Texas border, I feel like Texas is actually standing up for themselves and California is not. And it goes down to who runs the states. Our governor is horrible. Yes, Gavin Newsom, that is you I'm talking about. Um, but, you know, we, the people, we pay these people to guide us as a country. And these people are not guiding us as a country. They're failing us. And that's my personal opinion. Um, I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take for all this to stop. Well, we kind of do.
yeah, we do.
We won't get to that either right now, but
Mhm.
um,
One of the things we talked about too was, and it actually, it kind of actually upset me, not you, but the situation. So Dylan, um, he obviously didn't have kids, very young kid himself, never got a chance to use his GI Bill. Um, and I reached out to my congressman who has zero jurisdiction in California, but just I posed the question, why can't his GI Bill benefits be transferred to his younger sister? Because sadly, he will never get a chance to use those benefits. And I haven't heard back yet, but one thing I do know about my congressman is he will get back to me. But these people coming to California, they're guaranteed free housing, free education, and your daughter, I'm assuming she's going to want to go to college, and you know, you, like I do with mine, we're going to have to pay for it. And we pay our taxes, and
right.
I honestly believe Dylan's GI benefit should be able to go to his sister.
So let's go back to August, August 2023, the first time that I mean, the families were there, that we went to DC to meet with Congress. This was something that was brought up. And I asked, I said, most of these kids, there was only one of the 13 that had a child, and the child was born 2 weeks after. Um, None of them had children to pass on these benefits. And it's not that I'm looking for anything in particular or,
Mm-hmm.
hey, help me out kind of thing. But these service members pass away a lot. Um, you got 3 new ones, like you just mentioned. We have 3 new ones. I haven't seen anything on the news that says that they were married and had children. Um, to keep a service member's legacy and life, they've given their life. Why can't one of their family members, whether it doesn't have to be an outside family member, but your immediate family, I feel should be taken care of. And my daughter, yes, she was 13 at the time and she's currently 16. Do I personally feel that she should inherit Dylan's GI Bill. Yes, her brother died. Her brother died for her to live a free life here. And if it helps her in any way, why can't she go to college? And she would say, "My brother, I get to go to college because of my brother." Um, that's one thing. Like, we don't need, when a service member passes away and they're married with a child, the spouse and dependent do take on those benefits, but
Mhm.
a parent and a sibling do not. So,
Yeah. Well, I look at it this way, and it's not just because you and I are now friends, but Dylan's sacrifice wasn't just made for his sister, it was made for me, and I never met him. It was made for my neighbors or the people in Congress or the governor of California. It was his sacrifice was for all of us, and it shouldn't be a debate or hard for his legacy to continue. Um, I know somebody whose father was killed in the line of duty as a police officer, and the fraternal order of police made sure that all of his children, their college educations were taken care of. Now, granted, they were his kids, but they their college educations were taken care of, and they should have been. The mortgage on their house was paid off. Um, this was the fraternal order of police, and it's my opinion, especially knowing the ages of the kids that made that ultimate sacrifice. 5 of them were 20. I mean, and you told
right,
me about Tunnel to Towers. And I actually give $22 a month to Tunnel to Towers. You told me that the stipulation that they have is the service member has to have a kid. And I didn't know that. But it's funny, since you and I talked about that, I've heard a bunch of commercials for Tunnel to Towers, and they even stipulate in the commercial the service member with a child. And now, granted, it's a charity and they can run their charity however they want,
right.
but when a child of 20 years old passes away serving his country, I think that should also be taken into consideration, you know, if not by Tunnel to Towers. I mean, I'm not knocking them,
Right.
but
No,
there should be,
Tunnels to
then the
Towers.
government should step in and say, "Hey, whoa, wait a minute. Let's make sure the mom, the sister, the brother, you know, the whoever the immediate family is, let's make sure that they don't have to suffer any more than they already are."
I
Because I would
agree.
imagine the
So,
last thing I'd be thinking about if it were my child who is of military age, I wouldn't be thinking about going to work. I wouldn't be thinking about how I'm going to buy my groceries or if my refrigerator needs filled. There's a billion other things I'd be thinking about, and paying my bills or going to work would be really low on the totem pole, I would imagine.
right.
So,
Tunnels to Towers was actually started for first responders.
mhm,
You got to remember, and when the attacks of 9/11 occurred, their personal firefighters, police officers, they were the ones running into the towers immediately to go save people that they could. Um, there wasn't military presence right away. It wasn't, these attacks happened. I don't ever put Tunnels to Towers down for their stipulations, but I know that they're nationally funded and millions of Americans do donate to them. Um, in a situation, and they don't happen very often, to be honest, but in a
mhm,
situation like the 13, I do feel that they had enough funding to help some of the families. They did give one of them a house, but I personally wasn't offered any mortgage payment or mortgage, even if it was a couple of months. Hey, let me help you pay your rent or your mortgage, just to help you get through the first couple months, because like you said, you're not coherent, you're not functioning, you're not knowing what's going to happen. The last thing on your mind is going to the grocery store to go get some food.
Right.
I didn't eat. I personally didn't eat for probably a whole month. I was picking at everything. I remember
Mm-hmm.
the first day that my Keiko goes, "Oh my gosh, that's the first time I've seen you put some food in your mouth." It's, you're not thinking about these things because you're traumatized, and you're trying to figure out in your mind, is this really true? Is this happening? Why is this happening to me? Why is it my child? You're not thinking about paying a bill tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
um, we all know they're there. Trust me, you pay them every single month. But in the very initial shock and trauma, it's very hard. It's very hard to even think about little things, the little tiny things, as in grocery shopping. I didn't think about grocery shopping.
Right.
Do we have milk in the house? That was the last thing on my mind.
Right. That's completely understandable. I'm sure everybody, all 13 families were probably the exact same way.
I feel maybe, yeah. I mean, I don't think any of these families, I don't know how they all operated. I know in my personal household, it affected all of my family, my parents, my siblings, my other children. Um, Nobody was really mentally functioning at the time. So
right.
it would have been a little nice, I guess, to get some little help just to get through that transition. And that's what
So,
I've been referring it to as a transition.
oh
The
yeah.
transition from your day to day, go to work, do this, and then tragedy is in your face, and you're not the same person you were.
Yeah. And how is everybody? How are your parents and the kids doing? And obviously, I'm not going to ask the kids' names, even though I know them for their privacy.
um, they're good. They're I Let's just say they're better. Um,
Hmm.
I don't think my family will ever be the way we were. The closeness. I mean, we're always together, that kind of stuff. But there's always that emptiness. Dylan was a huge, my kids, any of the kids were huge, part of our family. And
Hmm.
to not have one with us on a regular basis, um, this situation is going to hurt my family for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
My
Eh,
parents cry more than I've ever seen them cry. um, my other two children are coping. I've kept one of them very active in school and education, sports. Sports is a huge one because I feel that if that child didn't have sports, I don't know what kind of depression she would have ultimately slipped into.
Right. And the 13, I, this might be just ignorance on my part, but were they all in the same unit or battalion or whatever that's called in the Marines? I was in the Navy. Forgive me for that.
Not all. So um, obviously there was 13, and there was an army, sorry, the Ryan, the army one. He was not from Camp Pendleton, and neither were the girls. 10 of our 13 were from Camp Pendleton, and 9 of them were from the same unit. So in the way of, you have your battalion, and your battalion's broken down into your units and your companies. um, Dylan was in Ghost Company, and they lost 8, 9 of our kids were from Ghost Company.
Hmm. And the rest of the company, um, How are they? Do you keep in contact with the guys that were there with him?
I do. Like us, as my family, in the beginning, it was really, really hard.
Mhm.
They watched everything happen. They were there. They had to experience this in front of their face, and um, they're doing good. I must say, they're some of them have gotten out. They're going to college. They need to do something, and that's been my thing, is encouraging them. Because if we had sat around with my family and these Marines and just sat there all the time, no, I was trying to get them to go outside and go do something, because if they're doing something, they're active, and they feel like they're being not stuck. I'm going to say it, stuck in a revolving day-to-day mental, they're going to have flashbacks. No
Sure.
doubt. No doubt they're going to have possible PTSD. I mean, I do. I feel like I do. I'm never going to be who I was a couple of years ago. Um, those little bouts of anger or a nightmare, or, they're going to have that for the rest of their lives. They had to witness this. They were physically there. That under 2 weeks that they were all there was even more, disgusting for them.
Right.
They had to see things that we don't see here in America.
Yeah. Um, and has the government or have they acknowledged the service members with any kind of awards? Obviously, the Purple Heart, but any uh, any additional awards for what they for their sacrifice?
They just, I want to say July, August. I think it's maybe August. They got a medal. But before that, no, there was no ceremony acknowledging them or honoring them, or um, anything like that. They went 2 years just like we did to get any acknowledgement from anybody higher than um, civilians. I mean, I'm a civilian, but anybody that's around you, I guess your neighbors, your friends, um, they were never honored. And I feel that maybe if all the 3,500 that were sent out there, if they were honored correctly and given, medals, and I don't know, I can't speak for them, but
Right.
for me, sometimes every time there's another event, they feel like a memorial. It's, but if they had done it in the beginning and honored them and not tried to spread so many things, it wouldn't be a reoccurring trauma to them either.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, they definitely were. All of them were not appreciated for saving 140,000 people in Afghanistan. They didn't save two people, they saved 140,000 people, men, women, children. I mean, they needed to be honored.
Right. Well, I would imagine in the 2.25 years since the government, I mean, people are erecting statues, right? Or, contacting you guys. I mean, I'm sure the appreciation is still there from our administration, right?
From our administration? No.
Oh, I know.
Any
So you told me that you wanted to get that there are places where some of the people have a Gold Star memorial.
I'm currently working on that. So, um, when this did transpire, I was watching some of hometowns and then other hometowns of past Gold Star, families. They were getting these Gold Star monuments from the Woody Williams Foundation.
Mhm.
Amazing. I thought they were great, and I had contacted my city and asked why couldn't we have one here in Rancho Cucamonga? It took probably a year, and they finally have approved for me to place one here. I found out, and it was from another Gold Star family member in my area, that we have a lot of Gold Star families in just my city alone. I do understand, being close to a military base, we're going to have a lot of
Mhm.
service members from surrounding areas because they get to stay close to home. My son personally got to come home every weekend. Um, so I'm working on that. We are finally they allowed me to place one here. So we're in the beginning stages of with the contractors and stuff like that to get one placed here in Ranch Cucamonga.
So I was thinking about this last night, actually. Have you reached out to the local VFW or American Legion or anything like that as for assistance?
Oh man. um no, because in the beginning, they weren't reaching out to me personally. I do know that they held a couple of events or fundraiser, type things.
Mhm.
Um, I want to say I didn't have a relationship, a personal relationship with them for close to a year. Um,
Hmm.
didn't know that they had been receiving items or monetary things, money on Dylan's name. Um, my job for my son, I guess maybe how I feel, is to honor our veterans. Um, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but I felt like mine wasn't connecting with me here locally to help me, guide me, help my daughter, um, anything. And from what I've learned, is that Gold Star stands above any rank in the military. And us personally here, my family did not receive any of that kind of stuff. No support, no help, nothing.
Hmm. That's disappointing.
It's more heartbreaking because I want the veterans should be honored. I mean, that's how I grew up. I've known this since I was able to walk and talk. I know this because my family served. Um, I didn't get that support around here.
It's one of the things that I've noticed since we've become friends is that while your son made the ultimate sacrifice, you always seem to make it about the veterans. I mean,
I
just in
got
that
told
last
that.
sentence, the last sentence that you even said, and you've said that multiple times in this 53 minutes and 13 seconds, you refer to the veterans. And I think that is it's a testament to who you are, but I mean, it doesn't go unnoticed that you don't forget the other sacrifices that were made too. And one of the things that I promised you and the Soviet family, because they're local here too, is that I'm going to keep Dylan's name and memory alive as long as I possibly can. And I don't want people to forget his sacrifice. And, which is also why I wanted to, do this second recording with you. But it's so inspiring how you continue to mention the veterans. So I just wanted you to know that I noticed that. And
Veterans from every other state, surrounding areas, they reached out to me because August 26th, actually, the entire Afghanistan withdrawal affected people that have served in the last 20 years. My
Mm-hmm.
son was a baby when 9/11 happened. He was 4 months old. He had no clue what was going on for 9/11. But our age group and older, they do. They were there. We lived it. Um, Knowing what my son saw in Afghanistan just reminds me of their sacrifices and their family sacrifices, that they had to go and fight this war for 20 years. And we lost a lot of, people in 20 years. What was that, 1800? Um, Knowing what I know now, those families, they suffered this loss that I did. Um, I couldn't tell you all their names. I couldn't tell you about their families because they're not spoken about. um, I don't want, I can't say that. Let's say the 13 brought acknowledgement back to Americans, and the 13 names became worldwide news. Um, why can't their names make a difference for everybody who has and is currently serving?
Right.
I was told that a lot, that especially in the beginning, don't worry about all of this, just worry about Dylan, Dylan, Dylan. And I just kept thinking, Dylan wasn't by himself. Dylan was surrounded by his Marine brothers. Dylan had a family outside of our personal family. These young men were always going to have each other's back. They have to go to war together. They have to train together. They lived together. Um, it didn't take just Dylan out there. It took
Mm-hmm.
a group, and it took a whole. So I have a really hard time when people say, just honor your son, because of course I want my son, not just because he's my son, because of the situation. And I've watched all these other families. Yes, they honor just their son. My son's name, um, to me personally, his name represents more than just 13. His name represents unity and fighting together out there in these conditions. I mean, they weren't fighting because they weren't allowed to fight, but battling this stuff that's going on out there, not being able to use your training. I wasn't there. I can't speak for them. I've heard some of their stories, not all of them, but I've heard their stories, and they had to bond together in ways that most families don't bond. I'm fortunate. My family is amazing. I live a mile from my parents because I had children and I needed, I don't know, to be by my family.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my son showed that to those Marines. And I feel the way he was and how he treated people, that is one reason the Marines did come to my home and spent time with me, because you can't have a child that is a bad kid and then all these other kids want to come to your home. They knew Dylan had a home.
Mm-hmm.
They knew every Friday night Dylan would wait there and wait for me to get off work to drive an hour and a half and go pick him up. They knew that he had a family. He wasn't just another, I guess, number to the Marine Corps. He had a family. And I heard those stories. I heard those stories from his Marine brothers about, um, Dylan always talked about his sister and his family, and you know all these things that we were gonna planning. And even when they were deployed, um, they were going to be home in time for his sister's birthday, and we had a weekend planned to go away as a family, just me and my kids. But we have plans, and they got pushed aside real quick.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You don't want to do them after you've made them when something like this happens.
Right. Did you were you able to get with Apple about his cell phone?
I have not. I've actually, if you can't tell, I've been coughing a little. Um, it's no excuse. I need to get off my bottom here and get some stuff done that I've been procrastinating on. And his phone is one of them. They had changed his all his information. I can't get into it. I did get it right away. I'm learning that some of the other families didn't even get their kids' stuff, but I did.
Mhm.
I do have possession of his phone, but I can't get into it. So no, I haven't gone down there yet. My
And
bad.
they took the SIM card. The government took the SIM card.
Yes.
That is that infuriates me as an American because that's not their SIM card. That was yours, Dylan's SIM card. That's theft,
Right. They invaded
invasion of privacy.
Yep, they invaded mine and my son's personal privacy because I don't even know what's on there. What if he
Yeah,
has, photos that he didn't want nobody to see? That's not for them to tell who can have that.
right.
That's for me as his mother to be able to say, okay, this photo people can see. This photo, these people invaded every part of our personal lives and they threw it out to the general public. And it's just heartbreaking to know that I wasn't the only one. Um, But when this first happened, I had people flocking into my place of employment looking for me and doing things around my area, and I wasn't even there. I wasn't present anywhere. But
Mhm.
90% of them showed, good support. I can't say that I had a lot of bad, but then I did. Um, I had people going into restaurants portraying to be my family, getting free meals,
Really?
stuff like that. Oh yeah. Um, Even my work, they were getting household items saying that they were my uncles and my aunts, and I told the Marine Corps and the sheriff's department, you need to shut me down because you're here in my parents' home. You see who's here. We're not even going outside in the public, and all these things were happening outside that we had no idea about. We were finding out were happening.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the your congressman out there, he's been a big help, right?
Oh, huge.
Yeah.
um so I'm going to call out another name. First, it starts with my governor, and then it goes down to my congressman here, Pete Aguilar. I met him one time. He showed up at the vigil the city held when this first happened, and he got on his knees, and I was sitting in a chair, and he presented me a flag, and then said, "If I ever need anything," I've reached out to him. He doesn't return my calls or anything. Then it went into these DC Congress. Here's our nation's Congress. And they said, hey, the families are here. Cheryl is here. She would like to have a private meeting with you. The other families, they're meeting with their congressman. He denied me not once but twice to meet with me in DC. And then I get a text message, which means he has my cell phone number. I get a text message that says, I was traveling, but I would be more than happy to meet with you in our own district. Really? I'm in DC and you can't walk across the hallway and come over and see my family? Very disrespectful. And for him to do photo ops, and I'm going to use that word because he's used some of our local veterans here for a photo op to say he helps and supports veterans. He's done nothing for my local VFW or me personally. What about the other Gold Star families before Dylan?
Right.
Nothing from him. And I hate that it's a political issue because I didn't grow up that way. We knew there was Republicans and Democrats, but everybody got along.
Mhm.
There wasn't so much division. It wasn't so dominant. I don't know what the word is, but it wasn't so out there that if you're a Republican, if you're a Democrat, it's got to be this way. I remember it didn't matter. Everybody on my street had flags in front of their houses. People loved America when I was growing up. Now people hate it.
Yeah, I know.
Or we're
It
bringing people in here that hate us.
uh,
Oh, let's not go there. Sorry.
Yeah, no, but truthfully though, when I was a kid, I didn't know who was a Republican or who was a Democrat.
Right. We all got
And,
along.
and I voted once I was of voting age. I think I automatically gravitated to Democrat for whatever reason. I don't know. I don't even know if my father or my mother was a Democrat or a Republican back then. I just, I voted, and even for Obama, when Obama ran, I was so naive about politics that I thought, our country's ready for its first black president. So I'm going to vote for Obama. Now I didn't know anything about him. I just thought we were ready for our first black president, and that was his first term was the last time I voted Democrat. Which personally I think Colin Powell or Condoleezza Rice would have made a good first black president, but voting for somebody because of their race or sex, or hiring somebody because of their race or sex, is a stupid reason. So consider
Right.
me stupid.
And I
Consider me
experienced that as an
stupid.
adult. I experienced it as an adult in the working force with the general public, that it doesn't matter that I'm a middle-aged woman. I still got harassed at work. I was getting harassed by my coworkers. I mean, why?
Hmm,
I thought that stuff went away back when I was, before I was even born. But if I'm
right.
being treated badly because I'm a middle-aged woman in the work field, working in the department I did was mostly men, I should have never experienced that in this era, in this 2000s. We're in the 2000s, and I was still being treated as if it was back in the 60s, 50s, whatever. I worked, I didn't have to work a diligent. I can't say that. I didn't have to go out to the workforce until I was older,
Hmm.
because we had our own business. I was able to take my children with me to work. My work was, we owned a child care. I had children, so they came with me to work. But when I got older and went out to the actual workforce, I was still being treated horribly. I
California.
wouldn't recommend. I know you keep telling me I need to get out of here, but I got one more year.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what though, honestly, when I lived in California, I loved California. And if I wanted to see snow, I would go up to the mountains. If I wanted to go to the beach, if I wanted to see the ocean, I'd go to the beach. And I was in the middle of nowhere, and I absolutely loved it. Which is, but I was on the other side of the world, from my family. It had to be so amazing to have Dylan and even his brother, you know, so close to home. I'd go months without, or my parents would go months without even hearing from me. And, to be able to have them so close has to be pretty amazing.
We had it. I can't say that there was anything in the beginning of my son's enlistment in the military that I didn't like. Um, I didn't like that I would have to go pick up my son and his feet were blistered, but he was training, but I still got to drive to the base every Friday and then bring him back every Sunday. And technology, obviously, but the FaceTime, he could FaceTime with his siblings. Um, he could FaceTime with my parents. It kept our family together. And he was literally down the street. If something were to happen, I could drive down. It wasn't going to take me more than an hour and a half to get to him. I don't
Right.
know if it would have been different. Or I mean, I know it would have, but I don't know how it would have been different if he was stationed like on the East Coast somewhere.
Hmm.
Because Dylan's deployment to Jordan was the first time my son has ever been on an airplane. Um, it was his first time he's ever been more than an hour and a half away from me. So it was really hard for me. Just that first deployment to Jordan because my children had never been more than that hour and a half away from me.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just
So,
hard.
yeah. So I reached out um, to as many Congress people as I could in email. And to my disappointment, I haven't heard back from anybody yet. And I'm hoping I do through the mail. But if not, I'm going to do a letter writing thing. I honestly believe that August 26th should be a national day of mourning. Um, the 13 names, people are gonna they're gonna and it's no different with anything as once a new tragedy happens, people move on to the next thing.
Right.
And they always say, we'll never forget. We'll never forget. But if they don't know who Dylan Merola is, or Maxton Soviak, or you know any of these names, how are they promising to never forget when they don't know who they are? Or now that these three service members were killed last week, the media, the politicians, they always move on to the next thing. And it's almost like these school shootings. They forget about what happened in Texas and they move on to what happened in Tennessee. And you know people just become numbers and not names. And I reached out to as many Congress people as I could to try to make August 26th a national day of mourning. But I also, on a local level, I figured I also wanted to do it on a local level and try to expand out. So I had lunch with my mayor of my city, who's a friend of mine, great guy. And the conversation kind of went like, it was real quick. I said, Mayor, I said, I'd really like it for our city to have a day of mourning for the 13 service members that were killed in Afghanistan on August 26, 2021. And he said, was any of them locally? I said, well, Maxton Soviak was from Berlin Heights. I said, but the 13 are all over the country and they deserve a national day of mourning. But I thought I'd also go smaller too. And he's like, okay, done. So he values my input and my opinion so much that on August 26th of this year, the city of Seven Hills, Ohio, will be honoring your son and the 12 others. Um, and he's going to make it official. I don't know how he does that, but on August 26th, there will be a day of mourning in Seven Hills. And when I was talking to the commander of the American Legion that I go to last night, he said he was also going to talk to the mayor of Parma, Ohio, which is the next city over from mine, and see if he would do the same thing. So there are people like me, and you and I don't have to be friends for me to want to do this, but I wanted you to know that, I am going to keep my promise, and to the other parents as well, is that uh, your son's name is going to be remembered, whether people want to or not. They're going to hear it from me at least. But I'm going to do everything I can, and I know somebody that was pretty high up in the Navy, in a cabinet position, and I'm going to reach out to him too. He's not there anymore, but he lives locally here in Cleveland. I'm going to reach out to him to see if there's anything that can be done about those GI benefits. I mean, you guys have a soft spot in my heart. And I want to do anything I can for you and the kids. And, I'm honored to have served, even though I never met, Dylan and your other son. I'm honored to have served, since they're considered Department of the Navy, in the same,
Right.
and, that we all served. We're all part of that 1%. So I'm proud to have done that, even though I've never met them. But, I'm going to do anything I can for you guys. But even like I said, starting on a local level, just having a day of mourning where I'll get up and I'll shout all 13 names on a megaphone so people can hear, Dylan Merola in Seven Hills, Ohio. So, and
I
I'll be sure to.
appreciate that. I'm sure the other families appreciate that as well. Back to the media part, I do feel that in the beginning, we all watched. It was worldwide news. I had
Mhm.
every country. I had Japan and all these people wanting interviews from Australia. Where are they now? Why do they not want interviews? This thing happened, and we weren't the only country there. It's always Americans' lives because we have a heart. Um, but the media controls what we see, and when people saw that the administration was being um, at fault for what was happening in Afghanistan, they shut down the media. People don't know our 13 kids' names. They don't, some of them, I run into people down the street, they have no idea that we even withdrew from Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
How do they not know this? I know it's close to us because we are service member families, but how do people know that? I wasn't Nobody was in the service at the time of 9/11, and the world saw that. Everybody knew that was happening. I do believe that everybody saw what was happening during the withdrawal too, but the media shut our situation down so that they could cover it up and lie so that they weren't held accountable for their actions.
Well, the one thing they tell you in the military is, we're on a need to know basis. And I think our current administration doesn't want us to know. I mean, they're not going to admit that they screwed up. I don't
Yep.
care. I don't care who's in government right now. They're not going to admit that they screwed up, and they screwed up royally. Um, that doesn't do anything to bring anybody back. But they're not going to admit fault. Most of these people are lawyers, or and that's the number one rule in law: never admit guilt. And they're not going to do it. And it's a shame that the only person that's been uh had any repercussions from this whole thing was a Marine who spoke out about it. you know
I was able to connect with Stuart Schuller and tell him I appreciated him. I never got to meet him yet. Hopefully one day, but I thanked him for standing up for his beliefs and the honor that what our military stands for and what they were being told to do by somebody who's sitting behind a desk. They should have been there.
yep.
Um, I can't tell somebody, and sorry, I do this little stupid giggle thing when I get super irritated before I lose it. I'm not laughing at the situation,
Oh,
but
I know you're not.
I can't sit in a room behind a desk and tell somebody who's in another country, I know what's best because I see it on TV, but you're not there. Um, I did witness back when Trump was the president. He traveled to these other countries, and this current administration doesn't do that. Um, My governor of California flew out to China. What is he doing in China? Why is
Yeah.
he making deals? Why? This is stuff that's not a governor's job.
Well, he
Um,
rolled out the red carpet for them when they came to what, San Francisco, and cleaned
yeah,
up all the homeless people for a couple
they
of
cleaned up
days.
one street, by the way. They
Uh,
moved the people from one street. But either way, I hate the fact that this is political of the 13 because it divided people. When you get politics involved, it causes a division. Instead of an honoring and some unity, the only day that I ever saw it didn't matter anything was when we brought our kids home. There was people, it didn't matter your race, religion, your
mhm.
political beliefs. There was so many people lining the streets just to honor, and I watched the others come home, but just to honor my son alone. Where are these people, and why is it I watched the same thing happen on 9/11. I watched people from everywhere unite together and help each other and actually go out and help clean up the debris out there and make it, you know, livable conditions again. Why? Why does it take a tragedy to unite people?
Yeah,
There's
it's true.
something missing there. Why it shouldn't take a tragedy for people to connect.
Right. Well, I tell cops all the time that on September 12th, 2001, people used to go up to cops and want to get their picture taken with them. Now they get their phones and their cameras out hoping the cops screw up. So
I
we've
know
uh
it's
we've
bad.
gone a long we've gone a long way in the negative since 2001, and it's a shame. It's I always say I didn't serve for what's going on now. I
Right.
served so Dylan wouldn't have had to, or my son wouldn't have to, or Dylan's brother wouldn't have to. That's why I served, and it's just insane right now what's going on all over the world. And it won't be long before China says, you know what, now's a good time for us to go into Taiwan. So,
They already did. They already came at us with COVID, and everybody freaked out about COVID. I
mhm,
mean, there was a time during that period that I called my son on Camp Pendleton and I told him, I said, Dylan, if I die tomorrow, if something happens to me, I'm one of the only people that are working with the public right now. I'm going to get this sickness. I'm going to die. I'm going to get COVID and I'm going to bring it home and I'm going to infest the household. I called my son. I called him and I said, if I die, you take over and you, you have to be the stronger one and
right.
protect your brother and sister. And he's got an older brother, but I called Dylan and I said, if I die, then you need to guide your sister and take over custody of her and show her what the lifestyle we had. Why I called Dylan? Because I watched him mature into a man.
Mhm,
um I knew he would always take care of his siblings in the rightful ways and everything would be equal. Not saying that the other two, I'm just saying my daughter was super little, so she had no, connection to any of this stuff. But just guide them. People serve for a better life for your future and your children, and it's not even your personal. It's everybody out there. If we don't stay connected as Americans, then I don't know. I mean, we're watching them divide us as Americans, and why?
right. Yeah, it's just crazy, how everything is going with politics and identities and all this junk. It's distressing, and it's going to take another tragedy to get us out of this, in my opinion. So, unfortunately, but it's gotten
We just
really,
had
really bad.
one, and this was supposed to be about dignified transfers, and I won't lie, I didn't know they even existed.
Right. No, I
When
and I didn't either, to be honest with you. And I knew about the Blue Star, the Gold Star. I knew about that, but I know it's a title that nobody wants. So,
Right.
um, you know, but but I'm here. I'm going to do everything I can for you guys, and honestly, for all the families. Um, I told you I did meet by chance. I met Riley McCollum's father and uh, wife and daughter at a NASCAR race in Charlotte, but I didn't know who they were. And
The
obviously,
baby's so big already.
and the Soviets, I do a lot with them. But so the other 10, I haven't spoke to or anything, but I know that if there's anything I can do for any of you guys, if it's writing a letter or even saying their child's name, I'm gonna do it. So I want people to know. That's why I said when you design those t-shirts, let me know and I'll buy some. And my daughter already accused me of always trying to promote an agenda with anything I wear. So whether it's I'm wearing one of my work t-shirts or something military, I'll wear I'll make sure people uh see whatever I'm wearing. So when you come up with those shirts, you let me know and I'll buy some.
My family does the same thing to me. My dad actually said that to me not too long ago. Don't you own any other clothing besides anything that has to do with that says Marines or has Dylan's name on it? Or the 13. And I said, even if I did, this is what I want people to see when I go out in public.
I wanted to make a shirt that would say, like Dylan. Ask me who Dylan Merola was. So then that would encourage somebody to say, "Hey, who was Dylan Merola? I don't know that name." Or who was Maxton Soviak? Or who was Riley McCollum? And it would and start a conversation about that person, and maybe they would say, "Oh, why don't I go look into this? Who he was, or at least that would be a great conversation starter." So maybe you can put that on the back of one of your shirts if when you come up with them. Have your brother design something. Ask me about Dylan Merola or something. That's my
Yeah,
advice.
we have a lot to work on. I wasn't very open minded in the beginning. I was very closed off. So,
Well, it's
um,
still it's still very recent. So I mean, I'm
right.
sure
But we're
nobody
working on
nobody
getting our nonprofit up for him. And, um, you know, I do want people to remember Dylan, and not because he's my child, but because of his why this even happened to him. Why is he not here? And then people will know his name and then know why he's not here.
right.
I agree. I think that acknowledgement, and there's so many people, everybody who has lost somebody, we all want their names to be remembered.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we as families never forget. And I've watched families like that's what their goal is to make sure that their child's name or husband or wife, I mean, this can go on and on and on everywhere, not like for everybody. If somebody passes away, you want them to be remembered for the good things they've done. My husband passed away in 2004. Nobody knows that. Nobody even knows his name. Like, it's not that he did some honoring thing, but either way, he was Dylan's father.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think about it. Um, it's not the top of your head, I guess. Well, it wasn't for me. Um, I did see. Well, let's go into this evil part, but everybody surrounding the tragedy that our 13 endured, everybody made something. Everybody sold something. Stickers, t-shirts, hoodies, you name it, it's out there. Um, they made their money quick, and they sold a lot of product, and it didn't go towards the benefit of the families. So these people made money off of a tragedy for their own personal gain.
Yeah, I sent you that picture, and I never thought about that. I thought I was honoring the 13, when I found a T-shirt with all 13 names on an American flag, and I thought at the time I thought I was doing my part and,
Right.
honoring the 13, but really what I was doing was I was lining the pocket of somebody profiteering off the sacrifice of 13 individuals, because I guarantee that money never went to, I'm sure that wasn't one of the 13 families that made that T-shirt.
Right.
So that's a shame, which is
It's
why I will never do it again. Um, but if an organization like my Max Soviak T-shirt, the Max Soviak organization, the charity T-shirt that I have, I bought it specifically from the organization. So,
right.
and yeah, that's a shame when people, like you said, people are trying to get free stuff, saying they're related to you, or these families doing that. I would never ever be able to do something like that. That's I don't know. That's pretty bad.
It's like living a nightmare. I personally, my family were watching all this stuff happen, and we're just like, hey, what about the families over here who are actually living it? It
Right.
wasn't none of that stuff. I personally bought shirts. I wanted 13 shirts, and um, with all their names on it and stuff. But I was doing the same thing. I bought a few shirts that was from somebody else off of what was it, Etsy, I think, but
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't benefiting the families. I wanted it because I was attending an event, or um, wanted to have everybody remember their names. So yeah, I bought them too, but it wasn't benefiting myself, except for maybe, I mean, it could have, because I would go out and then people would see their names. So I purchased my own, and they
Right.
weren't coming from the family members, they were coming from outside people. I did the same thing. I bought them too.
Well, I don't feel as bad now, but
I'm
but
just
still,
saying we did too. So
but when you come up with your own, and for whatever the nonprofit is, or whatever it's going to, make sure you let me know, and I will promote the crap out of it on my social media. On my flag social media, I have a lot of followers. I think it's fun that people want to follow me, but I will promote the crap out of it. Which, by the way, I checked the tracking today. Your flag is in Council Bluffs, Iowa. So
oh well.
it's right in the middle of nowhere of the country, but I've actually been to Council Bluffs, but it's on its way, and you'll have yours Sunday.
Thank you. I
So,
appreciate that. You didn't.
well,
I,
you're right. I
I
didn't need to.
appreciate you for honoring Dylan, and you have definitely made some of my mind, do believe that sometimes when these people tell me, hey, it's more about, getting Dylan's names remembered, especially my hometown and stuff like that. But I still, in my heart, it's always the 13.
Right.
But I appreciate you sending me a flag, because it means that you remembered and you honored Dylan and his family, and
Right.
it came from you.
Yeah, and I wish that I wasn't sending one, because your family made the ultimate sacrifice. Um, I wish that wasn't the case.
Right.
But I wanted it to also be just a small token of my appreciation, and so when you see it, you can, the reason I make my flags the way I do, and I don't know if I've told you this, but if you've seen pictures, or when you see your flag, your first thing you're going to notice is I don't use white stain. Okay, obviously our flag is red, white, and blue. I don't
Right.
use white stain because our flag has seen a lot of good and bad. Um, but our flag also only represents all that's good in our country. So even all this bad crap that's going on, our flag doesn't represent that. It
Right.
also, and also in the good and bad, especially for the veterans in the military, um, you know, we've seen a lot of bad, but we're still good people. And I wanted my flags to look like they've been through a lot, because we have individually as a country, veterans, we've all been through a lot, and I want my flags to represent that. And I also make my flags, uh, um, we aren't perfect. You aren't perfect. I'm not perfect. Our country's not perfect. And I make my flags to be symbolic of the imperfections. I say that they're imperfectly perfect. I,
Right.
I pick wood with knots, and to me, knots are just a characteristic in the wood that God put there. So I don't exclude those knots. I actually accentuate the I say with air quotes, the imperfections, and they're rough around the edges, and it's all done for a purpose, because all of us are that way. And our veterans, they go through a lot, and I think about all those things when I make my flags, and I really wanted you to have one, um not just because of, the sacrifice Dylan made for me and for my kids, but just, I wanted you to have one, as just so you know that, hey, there's somebody on the other side of the country that appreciates you and your family and your strength, and, all that you guys did for our country. And it's I know you're gonna like it, so I'm not even worried about that. I'm just anxious for you to get it.
Thank you. I'm excited to receive it myself. I
Yeah,
know you, when people do something, um, and you heard it right now, whoever listens to this, when somebody is passionate about something, it means more when they're giving from their heart and their perception of it. Because again, everybody has, and I'm going to go back, legends live forever and their stories will always be told, because every man has a story and they're all different in their own ways. And veterans and first responders and Americans don't emphasize on individuals. They look at things as a group, as a whole. Well, when it comes down to individuals, your passion about something is different than the next person that's living next door to you. When you show that you're passionate about something, you've done that. You've just told me what every meaning of the flag is to you, and people don't emphasize on the personal aspects of things.
yeah, it's important to remind people of, patriotism is not a dirty word. It's okay to love America, to be proud to be an American. I can be I can be a proud American and be disappointed with my government at the same time.
Right.
I can love my country but hate where my country is going, all at the same time. I'm not going to denounce my citizenship. I'm going to vote to try to make it a better place where we all can, live our best lives, and, pursuit of happiness, and all the things we are promised. But my flags, they don't represent slavery or anything bad that the media wants us to think it represents. Hell, there was even not too long ago, our own government was saying that the military needs to be watched because we're all a bunch of racist and,
Hmm.
you know, uh MAGA racists, and we could be a big problem in this country. And it's like, what an insult to the
Our service
military.
members. Yep.
Yeah. Just because somebody votes a certain way, or whatever, that doesn't make them a terrorist, or hey, I may not like a lot of Democrat voters, but that doesn't mean I think they're gonna, you know, I don't know. I just think they might not be very smart, but
People have lost the meaning of our military. Our military and first responders, I have to include them because their job, when they go into it, a doctor, a nurse. They all have these jobs,
Mm-hmm.
careers that it doesn't matter who you are, they protect and serve. And our military, it doesn't matter who you are, they're protecting our country as a whole. Hell, my son died in another country. He wasn't even in the United States. Like, he was protecting other cultures' lives. And that's, uh, they're
Mm-hmm.
underappreciated, and for this negativity, and that's what people need to really bring back, is that these professions that people choose to do, a doctor isn't going to let somebody die because of their ethnicity. um, their
Nope.
job is to make everyone well and perform surgeries to anybody. I mean, they're being paid to take care and medically treat these people. um, Military, they're here protecting, not even just here, they're in every country protecting other countries as well, our allies. Afghanistan had become, the civilians became allies to us. We trained them, we protected them.
Mm-hmm.
Our military, our American military, protected the lives from the evil in their country. And the evil in their country was ultimately ISIS and the Taliban. People don't see that. They think, oh, well, they're just, protecting this. Military doesn't see any of that divisions that people want to create in their minds. And that's how I want my son to be remembered. I want him to be remembered that he didn't die for me personally. He wasn't here by my side and some guy come up and try to attack me. He didn't die protecting me. He actually technically died protecting other people's wives and children, because it reminded him of his family at home.
Yeah, you know that day. I mean, as you were saying that, I was thinking about that. I, I mean, we all saw it on TV. People were literally handing their babies over walls and fences, handing them to perfect strangers from another country, hoping their baby would get out of that shithole,
Right.
and your hero son, they were handing him to our people, hoping that they could get him on a plane and get him to a better life than that place. And uh,
And that goes to show the dedication to a parent to a child, because the parents, the women, I watched the women, like you said, giving their babies to complete strangers. I'm a person here, I would never think to hand my baby over to a complete stranger and say,
mhm,
I can't be a mom, here you go. Not Okay, not be a mom. I'm sorry, let's rephrase that, because I don't know everybody's situations. And if I was a young mom, if I was younger, maybe I would have said, hey mom, here, take custody of my child. I don't know, what people's situations, but these were grown people
yep.
making decisions that would save their children, which most 99% of people who have children, that's what we do. We protect and love and nurture and raise our children, the best that we can. There's no,
Mhm.
there's books, but you can't really raise a child off of a book. These women were so desperate for their children's lives, and I couldn't imagine what they were feeling. I really couldn't, because I don't see myself handing over my brand new infant to a 19, 20-year-old child saying, I'm going to die, but save my child.
Right.
I couldn't imagine that. My heart went out to them as my son was out there. I thought about them and how they were feeling. We, bring them here because those babies, they don't know what's going on. They have
Mhm.
no clue.
Nope. So if you had a chance to say anything to the president now, what would you say to him?
At this point right now, I just want people to know the truths. I want the accountability. To say something to him, there's not really anything I can say to him. I don't want to be face to face with him. I don't want to have another interaction with him. Um, I would call him, he's a coward for lying. He left Afghanistan in the middle of the night. He didn't betray just America. He betrayed another country. He left them in the middle of the night. There's a lot of things I would say to him. I guess I would probably start off that I've called him out before. Quit talking about your son being in the service and dying in the service because your son died of cancer. My son didn't get that chance. My son didn't get to get sick and get old. He died as a child, and he can't go. My life is never going to be where I get to see grandkids and see him get married. This man, there's so many nasty things that I could say to him, just from how he treated my family and myself, and my son. He dishonored my son, who gave his life. He didn't acknowledge them, and then to look at his watch and be 2 hours late. It just started from the beginning. It was never, there's nothing I could say to him because he doesn't care. I could probably say something to his face right now, and tomorrow he's not going to remember who said it.
Right.
I don't know what to say to him. People ask me this question, and I always get stuck because there's not one word I could say to him that's going to miraculously just be that magic word, but very dishonest. Um, Quit making things about yourself. It isn't about you. It's about everybody being united, and you're not uniting people when you're only talking about yourself.
Mm-hmm. Well, I certainly hope that there's accountability sometime in the future, um, for all this stuff that has happened, especially over the last 3.5 years,
Two and a half.
not just what happened in Afghanistan, but
So
it seems like they can pretty much do anything and not have any kind of repercussions from it. I mean, I could go down a whole list of things that have happened, but I really hope there's some accountability for this sometime. It's not going to do any good, but at least, you know, somebody needs to be held accountable.
and the right people, because some
Yes.
people now are trying to hold it within our own military system, and it's not, though. I mean, ultimately they had decisions too, but that day shouldn't reflect on everything that had happened prior leading up to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree, this administration needs to be held accountable, and at the very top levels, not breaking it down into lower levels. But it always starts with the president of the United States, because Joe Biden's name is what America knows right now, and
Right.
he ultimately made this decision. Um, and the way he did it, it wasn't even making the decision, because you can say, oh, Trump put this into place and I had to pick up the pieces. It doesn't matter. You knew, everybody knew we shouldn't have been there
Right.
for 20 years.
Yeah.
Like, come on. We shouldn't have been there for 20 years to begin with, but we did, and we helped people, and we saved their lives for 20 years. We helped these women and children go to school, and he left them.
Yep.
He left them in the middle of the night, and that's an instant betrayal to what people would represent or look at Americans, and we're not all the same.
See, and that's too what I was talking about, where the media and they keep moving on. So we had they were reporting on what was going on in Afghanistan, especially after we pulled out. Then Ukraine started, and there was 24/7 media with Ukraine. Then Israel, 24/7, no more Ukraine, no more Afghanistan. Now they're barely reporting about Israel. So they just keep moving on to the next big thing.
Doesn't it feel
When's
fake?
the last time when's the last time you saw anything about anything on TV about Afghanistan? I can't remember.
It feels fake. It feels like a movie. It feels set
Yeah.
up, and it doesn't feel real. I mean, I didn't travel to these countries to go see what was actually happened, but it feels staged. I don't know what else to say. It feels staged. And what people are seeing, they instantly take it off. And
Yeah.
why? Why are you removing that? This is history. And if you're going to remove something that's so detrimental to not just American lives, but other countries' lives, why is this not being blasted everywhere?
Right. Well,
I agree.
I mean, that's what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to blast it everywhere. I don't want people to forget what happened. 20 years in Afghanistan, whether we should have been there or not, we needed to get out of there, but we didn't need to get out of there like how they did it. So, but I
Exactly.
would also be bashing if it was a Republican president that did this, it was wrong how it was done. So, if Donald Trump was the president, I'd say the same thing. Even though I vote Republican, you know, I don't care who did it. They screwed up. But, there should be accountability for whenever our government screws up and, people accidents happen that shouldn't have happened. So,
If Afghanistan had happened the way it happened under any other president that's a Republican, they would have imprisoned them and held them accountable for everything. And them,
yeah,
I say the Democrats, because they're so desperate to, and this goes back to the 2000s, and those presidents, like you said, the ones, maybe a younger one and maybe one of color and this and that. Well, guess what? You know what? It shouldn't matter at that point, but why did this even happen this way? If Trump was president, they would have massacred him for the way that withdrawal from Afghanistan went down.
100%. 100%. It's actually really crazy how people are treated now based on how they vote. It's I don't even recognize my country. I've been here a long time, my entire life, and I don't even recognize it. The country that I grew up in is not the country that I'm living in now.
I don't think anybody is. When my son first passed away, my grandfather, he's 97, Korean War vet, and he instantly, this is a a man, like a grown man. Just because he's my family doesn't mean shit. He's a grown man that served our country, and he immediately said the same thing. This should have never been this way. No, we know this. It's
Mm-hmm.
not something that people didn't think that this was some great accomplishment. It wasn't.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy.
That was his first big mistake, was Afghanistan. He was too worried about redacting everything that Trump had put into place that he didn't even put any effort or time into planning a withdrawal from Afghanistan. And my big question, Joe, is when did it turn? And I do know when, but why did it turn from a withdrawal to an immediate evacuation? Because any other country would have not let us leave there.
Well, yeah, I think it turned into the evacuation when they realized, oh shit, we should have done this on the base. And doing it at that airport was the complete wrong. At that point, they couldn't undo what they were doing, and they screwed up, and it went back to anything that agreement or anything that Trump had set up, whether it was the border or anything, they were going to undo it,
Right.
um, including the pullout, which Trump was going to pull our troops out. But I guarantee he wouldn't have done it the way it was done. He would have gotten everybody out first, then the military, then our stuff, or he would have blown it. He would have blown it all up so it could never be used. But yeah, they screwed up when they decided we're just going to completely undo everything that was done. If he would have taken office and literally gone to Delaware every weekend and did nothing, the country would have been way better off.
Right.
But anyway, well, listen, I've taken up a lot of your day.
That's okay.
An hour and 54 minutes and 19 seconds. And I appreciate every minute of it.
Thank you.
I'm glad that we're friends now. This was way easier this time than the last time. I had not one note or talking point or anything in front of me. So, I mean, I appreciate you and your family, and also the service of your family. I know you said your father was in Korea,
My
uh,
grandfather.
grandfather was in Korea,
Mhm.
and your father was in
My
the
dad never served. It was my both my grandfathers served.
okay.
Yeah. So
Oh, that's right. You told me about your um. Well, I appreciate the history of serving in your family. I come from
thank
a long line of veterans also. I was my dad's ticket out of Vietnam. So he never went to the military, but my grandfather was in World War II and his father was in World War One.
right.
So I think I was born to serve, and but I appreciate knowing you, and like I said probably 20 times now, uh, I will do whatever I can, not only for Dylan, but also to try to use whatever connection I have to try to help out any way I can. And if you need me to contact any VFWs or American Legions or politicians, if I can do it, I absolutely will. So,
I
um,
appreciate that. Thank you.
well, you're welcome. But let me know what you think of your flag when you get it. I usually tell people I like to get a picture of where it ends up. So if you don't mind taking a picture, I always love those things. I usually put them on my social media, but I don't ever put personal information on there if I post a picture. But that'll be there in 2 days, so I'm excited about that. But thank you for taking this time to talk to me.
Thank you for having me on, and I hope you have a great weekend. And I look forward to receiving my flag. And we will send you
Awesome.
photos.
Great.
um, I guess
Well,
just together keep fighting for some kind of honoring. They need to be honored. Everybody that has served needs to be honored, but the 13 kind of got pushed away so fast. So
yeah. Well, not as long as I'm around. I'm gonna make sure their names are out there. So I just won't be buying any T-shirts from anybody on Etsy.
hey, I did. Like I said, I won't lie, I did.
Hey, the funny thing though is I bought my own heat press too to make my own T-shirts because I spent so much money on T-shirts. I bought a heat press so I can make my own. So I suppose I could make my own, but I won't be buying any on Etsy from anybody else unless you're on there and you guys have your own. So
I think most of the, well, not most, I guess, but a lot of the families have their own nonprofits. I encourage people to, support them, support all of us because we're not connected under one foundation. Everybody's got something going on. So, and they have good things going and they're supporting others through their nonprofits. So, look up all 13 families. Most of them have something in honor of their child.
I'm gonna have to do that. So eventually, maybe I'll reach out to all 13 families, at least just to let them know that I'm a an advocate for their family.
I'm sure they would appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that said, thank you very much. I'm certain we'll be talking soon. So I'll let you know when this is on my Spotify and iHeart. So if you want to listen to it, it'll be there. If you want to repost it so other people can hear the story, um, the more people that hears your story, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. I do feel that everybody has a story and they all need to be told because they're all different. Everybody
Right.
experience, even though people think, oh, it's all the 13 families, each family experienced our situation completely different.
And the moral of the story is if you're going to tell a story, make sure it's your story and not somebody else, especially if you were hiding in another room.
We won't go there, but yes,
Yes, that's right.
if a family member is going to tell a story or anybody, make sure it's your experience and not somebody else's experience, because if you didn't experience it, you can't have the same emotion and feelings as those who did experience it.
And I started this whole conversation off with, you are going to tell your story. And we ended it with saying the exact same thing. So, with that said, I will talk to you soon. I had a blast talking to you,
Thank
and I look
you.
forward to talking to you again.
All right, you have a good day and thank you.
Okay, I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye bye.
All right, bye.